I don't know. I think I whiffed. I read an IDP waiver article this evening.
Oh yeah.
I made a lot of pickups, but none of them were in that article. So the one
Damn.
you got was in there. So congrats, dude.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know how I
overpaid.
missed that.
I feel like I always underpay in roasted and the D League, so I just like threw money around this week. So
Yeah, I feel like I'll be out of fab by week like six. And it's
nice.
cool. Like you're saying, like I always got outbid for like the first couple years.
Hmm.
And then now I just like put down, 12 spots on guys that no one else is picking up.
Yeah.
And then I don't care anymore. Like I
Just get
hope,
your guy.
yeah. I mean, every time I try to like, you know, be smart about it, like I swear to God, Danny outbids me by $1. And it's like, so fuck it, dude. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Like these are the guys you're adding, I could do the same thing with like zero bids and just be
Hmm.
comfortable not getting the guys. But instead
Yeah.
I just do like,
You just overbid. Yeah.
yeah, double digit against nobody. So
I think I raised that bond bid 3 times. Like
nice.
just going in and being like, you
Nice.
know what? No, fuck it. I want this dude.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Did you want to introduce each segment as we come up to them, or do like a brief introduction at the beginning of everything we're going to talk about? Or what do you think?
Let me see. I think we just introduce them as they come up.
Okay,
And then
cool.
I can do my damnedest to explain them if that would
Okay.
be
Yeah.
preferable. And they're
Uh,
like the explanations, I'm just using what's on that sheet, and it's super simple. But
okay. Well, yeah, I'll do the rookie roundup and then you can take the other ones and we can go from there.
okay, I love it.
Alrighty.
All right, man.
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
It's good, man.
Good.
Football's fully
It's back.
loaded. Yes. And I gotta tell you, I love watching football all day on Sunday, but I think it feels more natural when it's like 40 degrees outside.
Yeah.
These first
Mhm.
couple weeks, you're like, shit, this like kind of do. This is, doesn't feel natural, but I'm in it. I'm in it, and I loved it. And what about you, Christian? How about you?
I actually got a little brief preview of that feeling because in Indy it was like in the mid 60s, and so I had all the
Oh,
windows open, I had the air conditioning off, and I was just watching football, and it just
nice.
felt really nice,
That
and
would be
so yeah,
nice.
we're on our way over here. But
Heck
yeah, just
yeah.
like it, man, it was fun. Being back in it, having all the screens up may sound sad to some, but I was in my element.
Dude, I had the Sunday ticket going, and it was sweet. So,
Yeah. So, with all of that being said, that means we're back in week one. So, we're going to hit you with some of our in-season content. We're going to hit you with some segments if you were with us last year that you're going to recognize, like the first one we're going to start with here. And we're going to do some new ones for you. So, hopefully you like some of these. If you do, let us know. If you don't, also let us know. We'll tweak it, you know. But first and foremost, as we are a Dynasty podcast, we're gonna hit you with the old rookie roundup.
yeehaw.
So if you weren't with us last year, this is just a quick summary of most of the rookie names that we talked about all offseason, going leading up to the draft, and then in your rookie drafts or your dynasty leagues, just to kind of heat check where all these guys are. breaking them into different categories. The first one is injured slash inactive, either coach decision or whatever it is. So I've got Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd, Rasheen Ali, Jonathan Brooks, and then I threw Rome Odunze in here. He did play in week one, only had a catch, and then now he is injured with an MCL, going to be out for a few weeks. And
Yeah.
then Javon Baker also on this list, coach's decision. So that's the quick guys just didn't have weren't playing at all. Moving on to the clear backups. So these are guys that had less than a 25% snap share in their offense. These are Ray Davis, Trey Benson, Tyrone Tracy, Braylon Allen, Carson Steele, Audric Estime, who also just got
All
placed
right.
on IR, Jermaine Burton, Ben Sinnott, Michael Penix Jr., and Drake May. So all these guys fall into the clear backup category for now. We may see their kind of roles start to heat up here at some point, but for now, clear backups. So moving on to our first category that's really worth talking about, is the promising usage category. So these are guys who actually got used in their offense, even maybe some more than others, maybe some a lot more than others. But these are guys that we can kind of already start to see that they're going to have a role in this offense. And the first guy that we're starting with is one that Dan was honking about all offseason, and it's Bucky Irving.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
Comes in, spells Rashad White for 9 attempts, 62 yards, and 3 targets for 2 receptions. Really, really good
Nice.
day. Very efficient on the ground. Definitely earned more usage in that offense, and we could see him start to split more time with Rashad White, I think.
I hope so, dude. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I don't know. I've got the NFL Plus now, and it's got the premium. I've got the NFL Pro. I don't know if you've done this, if you looked into it, but
Hmm.
they've got a film room and you go in and you could just type in the player's name and watch like every whatever
Wow.
rush
Okay, I
or
need to get that.
reception. So I just watched every Bucky Irving carry. It was awesome.
Okay.
And then I watched like every Sam Darnold pass and it was sweet, dude. It really condensed my rehashing of the week, but I
I'll have to talk
100%
to you about
started out
that
with the
after the
Bucky
pod,
Irving.
how that
Yeah.
works.
I will. I'll get you them credentials, dude. But it's sweet. Yeah, we can definitely talk about it. I loved what I saw at Irving. I just watched that game and no other games during that time slot.
Nice.
Because I was all in on that
Hell yeah.
Washington, Tampa Bay. It was right where I wanted to be.
See, I only kind of had it passively on. I think that was my tablet game at one point. Or no, I think I had it on the second TV because I did want to see Jaden Daniels. But I do feel like every time I looked up, I saw Bucky Irving and no Rashad White. Now, Rashad White had a nice day fantasy wise.
Yeah.
Still had a good day, so I'm not super worried yet for him, but I did feel like I saw Bucky Irving all the time. Um, Second guy on this list, you wouldn't know it by the box score. 1 target for 1 reception, 6 yards, but Jalen Polk was in for 54% of the snaps for the New England Patriots, which is pretty good. Kind of ditto, same thing with Luke McCaffrey, 61% of the snaps, only 3 targets, but 3 receptions, 18 yards isn't bad. Adonai Mitchell in for 64% of the snaps, had 5 targets, only 1 catch for 2 yards, but he got missed on 2 bombs from Anthony
Mhm.
Richardson, which, is just what we're gonna have to deal with Richardson. We'll get into him a little later, I think, but it's clear that they have a role for Adonai and that he's gonna kind of fit. This one might be one that I'm gonna be wrong on from the offseason, because he was wide open on both the ones that he missed, and then both of them, one of them for sure could have been a touchdown, likely both.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was pretty.
mhm,
That whole thing got a little dicey with how the stats fell in that game.
mhm,
Definitely coming up later for some of the players, but I do think, yeah, Adonai has a path. With
mhm.
Josh Downs missing a little time here, it's going
Yeah,
to accelerate that process.
for sure, absolutely. And then we had Devon Villay, who had 49% of the snaps, 8 targets, 8 receptions, and 39 yards, because of course Sean Payton would target a 26-year-old seventh round rookie eight
Mhm.
times because he's an offensive mastermind. Have fun against Pittsburgh. Uh, Keon Coleman, 73% of the snaps, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 51 yards. So we're getting into some real production here now. But that 73% of the snaps is what's really important to me on Keon. Um, Up next, Xavier Legette, only 59% of the snaps, but he did have 7 targets in a game where they were utterly
Uh,
decimated on offense. Only turned out to be 4 receptions for 35 yards, but that's
some of
a
them looked good though.
yeah, and that was a lot more than I thought he was going to get, especially out of the gate. So this could be a situation where they're actually going to try and get him involved early and often. Um, Jalen McMillan only had 3 targets, but he had a reception for 32 yards and a touchdown, and Baker Mayfield missed him on that exact pass, like basically that exact play earlier in the game. And they went back to it. So they definitely have a role for him because he also played 83% of the snaps, which is one of the highest of the guys that are in this category. So crazy, crazy good there. Um, Second highest receiver, in fact, to the next guy who does fall in the promising usage category. And you might be surprised by the name, but he only had 3 targets for 1 reception and 4 yards. And it's Marvin Harrison Jr. If you were
Mhm.
with us last year, you would have remembered I had a no-show category, which you would have thought maybe Marvin Harrison would have fit here. But the 90% snap share that he had kind of makes me not care as much about the lack of production. I mean, like maybe they need to figure something out. And then the comments that Kyler Murray had today that I saw, I don't love that necessarily. Did you see that?
Yeah, not my job.
Yeah, it's not his job to target Marvin or force targets to Marvin Harrison, which I get like what he's saying, but just say, I don't know, we should get him more involved. Like just say that. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, but I'm not super worried because he was on the field basically all the time
It's
when the
coming.
offense, yeah, it's going to be coming. So I left him in promising usage here. Um, Next up leaves us 2 tight ends here. Both had promising usage here. Jatavion Sanders, 73%
Yeah.
of the snaps, was also in that horrendous game. So only 1 target for 1 catch and 4 yards, but still something. Theo Johnson was in for 86% of the snaps.
Yeah, he was.
4 targets, only a catch, and 18 yards. So nothing crazy, but on the field all the time. So now moving on to the big category. We got our possible studs already showing out, and these names you'll probably already have heard before and be expecting. But first up, we've got Xavier Worthy. Only 63% of the snaps, but 3 targets, 2 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown, and a carry for 21 yards and a touchdown cannot be ignored. The dude's speed immediately showed up on the field. It's crazy how fast he is. And even though I have my issues with maybe his consistency, I still like there's no denying that this guy is going to be a scoring machine potentially, or at least like a deep scoring machine.
Yeah, man. And I like the way it was used. It was like almost like a Jaden Reed light type situation. Like
Yeah.
there's a big future for him to expand that role, and that speed was undeniable. I'm pretty
Oh yeah.
pumped for obvious reasons.
Yeah, for sure. Leading into our next guy who didn't pop as hard but still popped, Malik Neighbors, 7 targets, 5 yards, 66, or sorry, 5 receptions for 66 yards. But importantly here, 100% of the snaps on
Of
offense
course.
for Malik Neighbors. So no issue there whatsoever. I don't know that the Giants are going to get this rolling, but I do think he's going to have some better games. I mean, on a day where they were horrendous, he still ended up with 66 yards. So I think he's going to be fine. The Giants, not so much. Um, Lad McConkey only had 67% of the share, so not as many as these other guys, but 7 targets, which is huge, 5 receptions, 39 yards, and a touchdown. And the touchdown, he made 2 people miss, showing off that elusivity. Looked really good, man. I'm really excited for what he can do with Herbert down there. Then we've got Brian Thomas Jr. I've got in the possible studs category, 77% snap share, 4 targets, 4 receptions for 47 yards and a touchdown, a beautiful touchdown. If I don't if I can add in there.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah. And then last guy in the possible studs category, you might hate it, but Brock Bowers, man, 68% of the snaps, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 58 yards. That's pretty good for a rookie tight end, especially since if that had been Michael Mayer's first game, we all would have been stoked. So this being Brock Bowers' first game, I think we have to give him a little bit of credit here.
Of course, dude. And I mean, there I got no doubts about the talent and
Yeah, I
nothing
guess.
but
Yeah.
faith in the dude. I just thought like this team would have probably put it more in the wide receiver room, given the duo they have there. But I like it, man. Yeah, do what's achievable. Tight end targets all day.
Let's
Make it
go.
happen.
Do you have any other comments about the possible studs? I kind of rolled through them there. Did you have anything?
No, man. I'm on for the ride.
Okay, perfect. So last up then, it's going to be a new little category. I just threw it aside because there are so many quarterbacks in this draft class, and I kind of wanted to separate them all. Um, and just talk about them in their own light because it's hard to say like promising usage on some of these quarterbacks, you know what I mean? Because they're starting. So first up, we got Jaden Daniels, 17 of 24 for 184 yards. No touchdowns, no picks, but 16 attempts for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Already, we're going to talk about him in a little bit, so I won't I won't
Yeah.
rain on him for too long. But I mean, already showing exactly why we talked about him in redrafts, we talked about him in Dynasty as being a difference-making threat on the ground.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that, man. Remember, my friend Terry McLaurin is on this
Yeah.
team. Okay.
Please,
Okay.
yeah, throw it to Terry more, especially with nobody else there. But moving on, Caleb Williams won the game, did not have a great game, however. 14 of 29, 93 yards, and 15 on the ground. No picks, unless I didn't write it down. I don't think he had a pick. But you know, it is what it is. It's a rookie game. They were at home. The Titans defense looks a little better than maybe we thought. Uh, and we hope to see them get this a little together. But a rough start. It's nice that they pulled out a win. Someone that did not pull out a win was Bo Nix. 26 of 42 for 138 yards, 2 interceptions, 35 yards on a ground, and did add a touchdown. And man, I guess that's what happens when you're not playing third stringers. Um, I don't know. To me, that was kind of what I expected out of Bo Nix in this offense. Very, very short yardage stuff. Not, I mean, you're talking 42 passes and you only pulled off 138 yards. It's like 5 yards per attempt. Like
It's not good.
it's not good. He looked lost. And he threw 2 picks in this game. He has the ability to make some moves and do some stuff sometimes, and maybe he pulls it together from here. But again, like I mentioned earlier, now they're going up against Pittsburgh. Um, Seattle was a good defense. Pittsburgh is a phenomenal defense. I don't see Bo Nix having a better game this coming week. So let's hope that this doesn't kind of destroy his confidence or anything early on. But I think the heat check on Bo Nix came a little hard this week.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Denver thing was a bit of a drag.
Mm.
As far as Javante goes,
Yeah.
and like no name wide receivers,
Mm-mm.
just it was
Devon
sad. So
Devon Valet, eight
yeah,
targets.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is like the Tim Patrick thing all over again. So let it roll, dude. I mean, whatever. Knicks, I think it's got to get better than this. We knew the short yardage was going to be a security blanket, but
Hmm.
I mean, if you're sleeping on the ground with just a security blanket, you got to build something up around you. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Mhm. We'll see. We'll see what he can do. But that has been your rookie roundup for week one. That is going to be a weekly segment, as well as the box score boomers, which Dan will get into later that you will
Eh.
know from last year. But now we're going to hit some new stuff. So, Dan, take it away. What are we getting into?
Okay, so we're gonna do like a weekly top 12 review, and we're gonna rotate positions. So we're just gonna go through the top 12, make a few analysis, read it off to you, a little announcement of surprises, and go from there. I'm pretty excited about it though. We'll do like weekly, and then we'll reference back to like rolling season as we start to accumulate a couple of weeks. So. We're starting out in the quarterback room,
Yeah.
which pretty exciting stuff, I
Hmm.
guess, if you get down into it. Um, just off the top, we'll just list them and then we'll get into them. But Josh Allen was at the top,
Hmm.
followed by Baker Mayfield.
Ooh-wee.
An- Anthony Richardson was a third. Jaden Daniels coming in fourth. Good job, rookie. Lamar is at five. Derek Carr, whoa, number six. CJ Stroud at seven. Tua Tagovailoa was number eight. Geno Smith at nine. Jordan Love was 10th. Jalen Hurts at 11 and Patrick Mahomes at 12. So definitely like Baker, Carr, Geno, surprises. I guess
Hmm.
Jaden Daniels, top five in the week one, kind of a surprise, kind of not really.
Yeah.
Um, but it was cool, man. And just looking at how it all breaks down, I don't know. It's like rushing touchdowns really helped some of these
Yeah.
guys out.
Yeah, they did.
So there were a couple of rushing TD guys that didn't make the top 12. You mentioned Bo Nix.
Hmm.
Bryce Young was another one.
Hmm.
But yeah, Gino had one. Richardson had one. So that got those guys in the top 10. And then, Daniels and Allen both had two.
Hmm.
So solidified them at top four. So that's always going to help those six
Hmm.
point touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah.
But when it
Yeah.
comes to the oh
Oh, no, sorry. I was just gonna say, I mean, Josh Allen is just unreal when it comes to being a fantasy quarterback. And to see Jaden Daniels do something like that, similar in game one. Now, obviously he didn't have the two passing touchdowns, is not nearly the passer that Josh Allen has turned into. But just you're talking the rushing advantage that these guys give you. I mean, that's why I was so in on Richardson, who's in the top three, and why I wanted a piece of Daniels. And then you got Lamar in there too, who didn't even score a touchdown, but just managed over 100 yards. So he's adding 12 points on the ground just rushing. Um,
oh yeah,
it's just a crazy advantage that these guys give you.
yeah, it's crazy. I broke it down pretty deep
Mm,
here, and I'm pretty excited to share my findings
let's do
when
it.
it comes to the rushing news. I'm going to tickle through a couple other spark notes on the top 12 guys um, on the way there. And starting next up, we did rushing touchdowns, and now I'm looking at the air touchdowns.
Hmm.
Um, and only two guys had more than two passing touchdowns this week. And that was Baker, which got him in
Hmm.
the number two spot, and then Derek Carr. So Baker had four, Carr had three, and that got Carr into the number six spot. And I keep hearing a lot of people are talking about these low passing touchdown numbers. And I will say it's undeniable. It's kind of low statistically. Um, but last year, there was only three guys that had more than two touchdowns in week one.
Hmm.
So I'm not getting too panicky that we're one fewer on that. Over the entire season, there were 73 weekly performances that had three or more passing touchdowns. So that's about four per week.
Hmm.
So expect it to heat up next week, but it was kind of low TD, you know, concentration on these guys. I don't know. Just some
Yeah.
observation.
I mean, yeah, it seemed like the passing numbers as a whole were down. I mean, looking at this list, what one of them's above 300 yards,
Yeah.
which is I don't know, maybe I missed it if you said that, but yeah, so the passing numbers in general were just down, which is kind of interesting. I mean, you can look at some of it and make it make sense in terms of passing yards. You got like Josh Allen with rookies, Anthony Richardson inconsistency, Jaden Daniels inconsistency, and then you got well, can't really make sense for Stroud to or Geno really, or even Jordan Love. But then Jalen Hurts and Patrick, both kind of well, not even Jalen Hurts, but whatever. I think a lot of these names will be around. I don't think Derek Carr is going to hang around here, and Baker will probably flirt with this area, but I don't think he'll stay in the top five. This was an electric game for him. Um, and yeah, I just don't really see that continuing, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's because I traded him away in our Jersey league.
Yeah, don't hate the baker, hate the game, dude. Hate the menu, not the baker. But
That's
no,
fair.
I mean what you're saying is true. First of all, Derek Carr to have 4 passing touchdowns and only 200 passing yards is
Hmm.
ridiculous. But
Hmm.
we'll just breeze right past that. And getting to like what you're saying about the passing yards, there were only two guys in the whole week that had over 300.
Oh wow.
We mentioned Tua, he had eight, or he was the eighth quarterback, and then the other guy was Matthew Stafford, who didn't make the top 12. So that is kind of crazy because we talked about like the rushing numbers,
Hmm.
to have or the passing TDs to have greater than two. There were 73 weeks last year. But to
Hmm.
have over 300 passing yards, there were 106 total quarterback weeks.
Hmm.
So that's more of an average of like 5.9 per week. And
Hmm.
in week one last year, there were 5 games that met that criteria.
Hmm.
So only two is way lower than five.
Yeah.
But I will say, going into week two last year, that number jumped from 5 to 10. So
Damn.
there is some slow start to it,
Hmm.
but like we're way behind the average when it comes to over 300-yard passing games. So
Okay.
um, I don't know, man, but we'll see how it goes. But obviously, rushing is king, man, when it comes to the
Hmm.
quarterback position in fantasy. But it's not necessarily the standard. I'll say that of the top 5 guys this week one. Baker was the only one that didn't have substantial rushing contributions,
Hmm.
and Fields and Kyler were the only quarterbacks with over 50 rushing yards that missed the top 12.
Hmm.
So it really goes a long way. And like I said, I did break it down pretty fairly deep. I'll call it fairly deep, but I wanted to look at a few things like the ratio of passing yards to rushing yards for these top 12 guys.
Hmm.
And it's kind of interesting because it's 50-50. Six of them have a ratio under 10 passing
Hmm.
yards to a rushing yard. And then the rest of the guys vary wildly from like 13 to 97.
Hmm.
So just to get into it, Josh Allen, he had 6 passing yards per rushing yard.
Hmm.
Anthony Richardson had around 4. Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson were just above 2.
Hmm.
So, half as many uh, passing yards were rushing yards. So it's pretty interesting. And then Geno Smith surprisingly had 5.7 passing yards to each rushing yard. And then Jalen Hurts was at 8.4. So those guys are really holding down. A significant portion of their production is on the ground. And Daniels and Jackson both had 50% or more of the team's rush attempts and
Hmm.
over 60% of the team's rushing yards, which is pretty incredible. I really like the efficiency on Anthony Richardson. Somehow only 27% of the team rushing share, but over 50% of the team rushing yards. So that's pretty impressive. Maybe Jonathan Taylor steps that up. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep tracking this because I like the ratio.
Hmm.
You got like
See
Derek
where it
Carr
hangs.
was like 15 passing yards to each rushing yard, and then
Hmm.
Mahomes had almost 300, but only 3 rushing yards, and
Mm.
and so it gets kind of weird. But I like that ratio number. But I mean that's pretty much ending it for me on the top 12 conversation.
Yeah, I mean, tried to tell you about Richardson. I think he's here. That throw that he made, the 60-yard bomb touchdown to Alec Pierce. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that was insane. The sky view, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. You're gonna have to deal with the ups and downs, but I think he really will be a fantasy game changer for a couple years. But Yeah, these guys, it's cool to see the rushers, and then it's just the consistent passers, which is nice. You see that kind of dynamic. You got your Shrouds, and Carr had a good game, Mayfield and Tua. But yeah, if you want the upside, go with these rushing guys if you can.
Yeah. Jordan Love, 0 rush attempts. What gives, bro?
I don't know. It was weird. I think he was having calf issues throughout the
Yeah,
game, and then just I don't know that they love the field, and then obviously ended up getting hurt. But
that's what I
we will
think.
see. Hopefully he can. He's a decent rusher.
Hmm.
So hopefully he can come back and kind of work a little bit more of that into his game still.
It will be interesting, which drops us into our next segment.
Hey.
Boom. So in this one, it's kind of a reflection, just an overview. Got a couple of categories. We're going with the damn, that's interesting.
Hmm.
So we'll hit that a few times and then we'll get into called it and then finish up with the well, I was wrong.
Hmm.
So that's just how it goes. But I don't know. I'll kick off the damn that's interesting
Sounds good.
with J.K. Dobbins
Mm.
making a huge impact with
Yeah.
98 rushing yards over expected, which
Hmm.
was like leading the league. That was a huge rushing effort. I just didn't see it coming. It was 10 carries for 135 yards. That's 13.5 per carry.
That's wild.
Um, Good Lord, man. As long
Yeah.
as this guy is healthy, it's going to be exciting. That's
Hmm.
insane to me. Very interesting.
I'm curious to see. He talked about being out of shape after the game, and he got chased down on both his long runs by like safeties who caught up to. You could like visibly see him run out of gas. I'm interested to see if that is just like a stamina thing that he has to build back up, or if that's just kind of where he's at now. But he did look explosive and good, man. I don't know if they're gonna keep that up, if they're gonna rotate it, but if he's playing like that, they should.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Insane.
I thought it was interesting. Damn, that's interesting that Keenan Allen got 11 targets. I know the Bears offense was like incredibly ineffective and specifically like him. Not maybe it wasn't his fault, I'm not trying to blame him,
Insane.
but 4 receptions for 29 yards on 11 targets is not good. But he led the team in targets. He had three more than DJ Moore, and now Rome Odunze is injured. I think Keenan Allen might end up being worth a little bit more than like, especially ice, but maybe he should have gone in the wrong segment. But I just thought it was interesting, especially with the Odunze injury, that like, oh man, like Keenan Allen, who especially in redrafts, people were getting fairly late, and you could probably get him fairly cheap. Might end up kind of being having another really good fantasy season.
Yeah, that target pace surpasses last year. So, I
Hmm.
mean, and now, right, you're funneling it in
Hmm.
to two-headed monster instead of the three.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, you got me there. Good Lord. Keenan, what are you doing, man? I'm throwing Jameson Williams out
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
Is that
Hmm.
interesting?
Hmm.
This dude is alive and well. And I gotta give the Rams defense some credit for his success because they shut down the studs.
Hmm.
Amon-Ra, even Laporta didn't really have crazy spicy
Yeah.
games. But I'm telling you, man, the way they used Jameson Williams was like kind of exactly what I was expecting.
Hmm.
Just like I don't know, I've said a few weeks ago, like when you have to have that, drive via success or like you're in a tough spot, a close game, he's that guy, that break glass guy. And he
Hmm.
100% owned that role. I was very impressed by his performance, and I thought it was pretty interesting personally.
Yeah, no, he looked really good. Looked the best that we've seen him look. I mean, I know he's had long touchdowns. His speed was always undeniable. We'll see if it's more of a flash in the pan, like you're saying. Amon-Ra is going to dominate that target share typically, but was not the case tonight. And maybe they do become a little more balanced. It would suck for Amon-Ra, but probably good for the Lions. And then all of you that held out faith for Jamison Williams for so long.
Yeah. Hats off to you, man. 121 yards, a touchdown, nine
Hmm.
targets, 5 catches. Pretty impressive.
Pretty good. Um, I thought the Cardinals were interesting, and specifically Kyler Murray. Um, we talked about it
Mhm.
in on Sunday, and so this is more of a redraft take. I was really in on Kyler Murray this year, and five carries for 57 yards isn't terrible. But it seemed like they were limiting him as like a design rusher a little more. They were bringing in Connor at the goal line, which they usually do, but it seemed like there was no chance that that was going to be Kyler. And the passing attack, I think, is going to take a step forward. I mean, he missed Marvin Harrison Jr. wide open. Trey McBride didn't have a very good game either. Um, and part of me is starting to think like, oh man, if he has a really good game next week, should I sell him if he's not going to run as much? Because is his ceiling that high as a straight passer? And I guess like is that an overreaction to week one in a game where he still got 50 yards on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a overreaction, but I do think that this game was like an adjustment period for this
Hmm.
offense, which is kind of weird considering, I mean, you had Kyler and Connor and McBride. Like there should have been some continuity there, but it definitely seemed like they were leaning on Connor in a way that made me think they were feeling out their game plan.
Hmm.
And he did start to heat up on the rushing in the second half, which was nice to see. But I think if they do end up getting the, McBride and Marvin Harrison thing rolling, then it should really open him up to get some respectable rush lanes, and I think it'll heat up. I would not sell him if he has a hot week this week because you
Okay.
never know with James Conner's health.
Gotcha.
Kyler might end
Makes
up
sense.
just getting a little nuclear towards the whatever patch of the season James Conner is going to miss.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But yeah, that was all interesting. I gotta say I called it like every year, like the Giants suck. I mean, this isn't much of a point, but like Saquon fucking rocks and the
Yeah.
Giants totally suck. So that was really cool to see
Yeah.
the Vikings and Darnold and everybody have that great game and
That's good.
first IDP week ever. I named the team Pappy Van Ginkle, and then he gets that pick six,
Hell
and I'm
yeah.
like, hey baby, I picked the right name. So
That's awesome.
yeah, the Giants suck.
Giants do suck. Hopefully they can pull it out. I want to see some good like neighbors game. You know who doesn't suck and who I was pounding the table for should have taken him probably in our redraft spectacular episode. Cooper Kupp is back, baby, and he looks great. 21 targets. 21 led the league in targets last week for 110 yards and a touchdown. And now Puka is out on IR, and now we just got an alert that he might even miss more than 4 games. Cooper Kupp, if you got him in the fourth, fifth round, even the third round of your fantasy draft, you got to be smiling.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy for you. Calling it always feels good, but I don't know, man. You got my next called it already with the Bucky Irving thing. Like
Oh,
I
damn.
I called it Sean Tucker was like not part of this game at all. And that kind of was sad because I
Hmm.
liked him as well, but dude, just the efficiency, the 6.9 yards per carry versus the 2.1, we
Hmm.
had from Rashad White was like more of the same. And you mentioned it, like he was incredible in the passing game. Rashad White, he had some big
Hmm.
plays as a receiver, but yeah, Bucky Irving, baby,
Bucky Irving looks
Nightcrawler.
great. Nightcrawler, there he is. Yeah, I like it, man. I'm excited to see him. I really liked him on film, and he was a guy that like the combine scared me. So I'm glad to see him popping and maybe just one more lesson. Stop paying so much attention to that combine, Christian. But
Long off
um,
season.
it is. There's a lot of time to think. And I thought a lot about who the wide receiver one in Houston was going to be, and I called it. And it may not seem like it because Stephon Diggs outscored him because he had 2 touchdowns. But Nico Collins is the wide receiver one there because every other stat you want to look at leans Nico when you're comparing him to Stephon Diggs. Targets 8 to 6, yards per target 14.6 to 5.5. Yards 117 to 33. Yards per route run 3.66 to 0.97. I know it's one game. I understand that. But the guy that they want to run this offense through is Nico Collins. It is amazing to have a route runner like Stephon Diggs as your secondary guy or as your third guy sometimes with Tank Dell because Tank Dell is so good and he can feast on these soft coverages and get open, and maybe he ends up with more touchdowns, which makes him a super viable fantasy guy. But Nico Collins is the wide receiver one there, and he like if he had a touchdown this week, he has a monster game. So I think I called it. Like it may not look like it on fantasy paper at this moment because of the two scores from Diggs, but Nico had a great game. And that catch, bro, that catch to seal the game on 3rd and 10 or whatever it was, my Lord, I did not think that was a catch in
No.
real time, and it most certainly was.
That's yeah, the cojones on Stroud, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Very impressive stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they are as advertised. I need to check. Me and AJ for sure. I don't know. I never know. Are trying to go to the KC
Ooh,
Texans
there you
game.
go.
And like I looked at tickets 4 weeks ago and they went up like $50 headed into last week. I'm sure they've like jumped again. So
Hey
I just need
man,
to
wait till the
flex that plastic.
that morning of, man. That's
Yeah.
what I've been doing. I've been maybe not even the morning of if you're nervous about it, but I've been waiting. The longer I wait, the cheaper the tickets get. Seems like
Okay.
people get like a little more desperate and need to sell the ticket and they go not like I'm not talking hundreds of dollars or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
I'm
I'm with
talking
you.
like 30, 40 bucks or so.
We did that when we went to the Minnesota KC game. We didn't get
hmm
the tickets till like
I did
Friday for
I
that
did
noon
it
game.
the morning of. I got up at like 8 a.m. when I was in New York and I bought tickets to the Bills Jets game.
Heck yeah.
So
Well,
anyway,
I was wrong about Joe Mixon's usage,
yeah,
bro.
I think
30
we all
fucking
were.
carries, 30 carries.
Jesus.
Okay,
Oh
led
my
for rush
God.
attempts and rushing yards. 159 yards,
Mm,
the RB2 for the week. I mean, my goodness. Congrats.
yeah.
Congrats, Joe.
Yeah, he was awesome. He looked great. Um, Part of me is curious, like, was that because it was going so well that they kept running him? Like I
Yeah,
feel like they still don't want to be a team that runs the ball 30 times a game, but I think they wanted to be the team that could run 30 times a game if they needed to, which they
yeah.
proved now that they can, which makes them a little more dangerous for sure. I was right there with you. I was wrong about that. But I was also wrong to put Saquon Barkley on my hard pass team over Jonathan Taylor in the redraft thing. Those were the two guys I was toying with in the first round. And I should have known that Jonathan Taylor would be the one that would be like probably good but not great, as opposed to Saquon Barkley being behind the best offensive line. My team in that redraft challenge we did ended up doing pretty well, but I think the
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley of it all is gonna haunt me this season. It is week
Gonna haunt
one,
us.
but and he's not gonna play the Packers every week, who seemingly are cursed to never be able to stop the run, no matter what defensive coordinator's there. So we'll see, but I was certainly wrong for that. I think I like after as we I was editing that episode. I was thinking, man, I should have probably taken Jonathan Taylor instead of Saquon Barkley for the hard pass team. And boy, was I wrong then
Yeah.
to do
Yeah,
that.
we got rolled. I got rolled in that. The Joe Mixon was on the other hard pass team
Oof. Yeah, that's a tough
and
one.
so was AJ Brown. It was like, yeah, just you know what? Forget me. But Bucking Irving made my flex in that best
Hell
ball.
yeah.
So what's up? That's awesome. Well, I was wrong. Alec Pierce is not cooked.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
cool beans. Mentioned it earlier when we're talking about AD Mitchell. Josh Downs comes back in. AD Mitchell heats up That might affect, but like those big plays were huge plays, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude. I
Yeah,
mean, we're talking about the wide receiver 10 here. Like he earned future targets in a big spot, and
yeah.
I think that he is not cooked. He is indeed cooking. He's
He's a
cooking.
he's there. I don't know that like consistency is going to be an issue because what he have like three targets for whatever for the two big catches, but the first one wide open caught it in stride. The second one had to go up and get it and still made it look good.
Yeah, he was
So yeah,
looking
Pierce was a
sharp in
guy.
those.
If you were with us when he came out, you heard us talk about him. We liked him as like a scrappy number two guy that could do
Oh
some
yeah,
stuff. And so
Cincinnati baby.
maybe we're finally gonna get that out of him. That would be really, really cool. This one hits home and hurts my heart. I was wrong for doubting Aaron Jones,
Ooh.
even briefly. Vikings were playing a bad Giants team, but one I thought the defense would be a little better than last year. Aaron Jones doesn't care. 6.7 yards per carry, 14 attempts for 94 yards and a touchdown. Something I said like, oh, the Vikings couldn't score rushing touchdowns. How's he going to do that with Sam Darnold? Well, he went ahead and did it week one.
No
Um,
problem.
and he looked awesome. Looked spry, looked healthy. It's really going to hurt when they play the Vikings. So I was wrong for on top of him being on a new team, also putting some doubt out there. So I apologize.
Yeah, man, you always gotta downplay them when they leave, you know. Good luck. Good luck out there, Jones. But yeah, he was looking good. That whole Vikings team was surprisingly
Yeah.
tuned up. I
Mhm.
thought I was very impressed by Jordan Addison's outing for sure.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, there goes that segment. Reflection is the best. But now we got to get into share the love, man.
Mm,
Nobody really knows. A lot of speculation in the offseason. How's it getting distributed? What's going to happen with new pieces and new places? And so we're going to get into share the love. This give us an opportunity to look at some work share splits and just hash it out, baby. And my first one, you've already tickled, and I think that it was worth tickling. But it's the Houston
mm,
passing split.
mm,
So we had Nico 8 targets, Tank Dell 7, and then Stefan with 6, right? Big day for Stefan. He got 3 of the 4 red zone targets that
mm,
Houston put up and ended up with the paired touchdowns, which really helped him out. But as you've already mentioned, man, Nico got the yards. When you're coming out with 19.5 yards per reception and you're getting 8 targets, 6 catches, that's electric. It's the same thing he was doing last year before
mhm,
Diggs was there. I like the way they're using Diggs. Like, keep him happy, give
mhm,
him premium targets, but let your offense run the way it was running awesome last year. And now you invigorate it with a great red zone wide receiver in Diggs and a decent rusher and Mixon. Boom, you're awesome. I do have a little concern with the Tank Dell thing. He got those 7 targets, but it was only 3 for 40. So
mm.
that's a little less explosive, but I don't know. Maybe he ends up the odd man out. I think that's kind of what I was thinking, uh, you know, just following the money and whatnot. But I don't know. It was an interesting split. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, certainly interesting. I'm with you on Dell. I think Dell is going to be the least consistent of the three. I think he's still going to have boom weeks. He's too spicy of a player not to, but I think they don't want to like pepper him too terribly much, especially not with targets where he can get hurt on. And then I feel like once they get into the red zone, if some kind of blocking is going to be involved, which is the play he got hurt on last year, probably not going to see him as much. I want to throw one quick one, really, really quick out, and then I'll get into an actual one. Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, that was silly that we got all riled up about that one.
Ooh,
90% snap share, 90 for Kyron Williams compared to Blake Corum. So not, I guess we should have just, who cares if he's returning punts? I kept all mine in the running back room. So I don't know. That's where my heart lives. I want to talk about Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in the Commanders split because it was pretty interesting. It looked fairly 50-50 if you're looking at snap. Share, you're looking at 56 for Robinson and 53 for, or sorry, 56 for Eckler and 53 for Robinson. No, sorry. I'll flip that again. 56 Robinson, 53 Eckler. Sorry, guys. Uh, but the opportunities was a little more lopsided. You had 16 opportunities, that's targets and attempts for Brian Robinson, as opposed to only six for Austin Eckler. And then really, really important here to me in the red zone. The snap share was 67% Brian Robinson to just 33% Austin Eckler, who had no touches inside the 10. Now their offense didn't really get going too crazy, crazy. Jaden Daniels had two rushing touchdowns, so that's also going to take away from both these guys. But I think kind of in the dirt numbers really kind of lean towards Brian Robinson here in this running back room.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's just this whole game kind of blew my mind. The Baker's just like mailing Mike Evans,
Hmm.
straight cash, and Washington's just like, oh, Jay Daniels just keep scrambling, no big deal. Um, so it'll be interesting to see when it gets a little more solidified how it ends up. But yeah, Brian Robinson looked good,
Good.
and
Hmm.
Eckler looked like he could definitely be a supplemental back. So
Hmm.
um, I'm with you on that Robinson deal. I'm surprised the snap shares are that close, honestly, having
Yeah.
watched most of it.
Hmm.
So I felt like I saw a lot of Eckler without his helmet on, but defense, who knows? But yeah, I'll keep an eye on that one. I went 50-50. I got two in the backfield, two in the air. So I'll do another air one. New Orleans Saints. What's what your touch distribution, my friends? My buddy Chris Olave,
Wah,
Mr.
wah.
Smooth. What are we doing? Two targets? Two targets. Two targets. Great. Great. You guys are smoking the Panthers. I get it. Keep them in the box for when you need them. But like, then why is Alvin Kamara getting like all these touches
Hmm.
late in the game, goal line looks in the third quarter? I mean, you got a 30-point differential the entire game. Why are you playing your star running back, but you're not doing anything for my boy Chris Olave? You
Mm.
have three tight ends out targeting him. And respect, two of those guys ended up top five on the week in Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson.
Mm.
But this is crazy. The thing that gets me, two targets, 79% snap share. So it
Ooh,
wasn't like he was resting.
yeah.
Um, just it's got me reeling, man. I don't even know what to say about it.
The Chris Olave stuff is annoying, and it's especially annoying for Derek Carr to have one of his best games in years on top of it and just still not target Chris Olave. So just stop doing that, you dick.
Seriously.
Um, getting into I want to talk about Jacksonville's backfield here. Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, 50-50 carry split. The exact same amount of carries between the two guys. And Bigsby was the far more efficient guy. However, if you look at the snap share, ETN had a 70% snap share compared to Bigsby's 32. Now, I do think Bigsby's earned a little more role, but it's also easy to forget that ETN fumbled on the 1 yard line. So his game would have looked a
Oof.
lot better with the second touchdown that he usually would have had. So I'm not overly concerned here, but the big game by Bixby and the relatively quiet game outside the touchdown from ETN does have me a little concerned and keeping my eye on it.
Yeah, I had this one on the list.
Okay.
You nailed it. It was 73 yards for Bigsby and 44 for Etienne, both getting
Hmm.
12 carries, but every single red zone carry went to Etienne. So
Hmm.
it is what it is on that. Got to Got to respect the draft capital, but yeah, big turnaround for Tank Bigsby after an abysmal rookie year. So good for him. We'll
Yeah.
see. Man, it's kind of rough. I thought they were going to beat the Finns. I thought it was going to be something. Kings of Florida for a week, but no such luck, man. Some bad luck, really.
Mhm.
Um, but I got my last one here is a backfield, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Pittsburgh. So as far as the snap shares go, it was 56 to Najee, 31
Mm.
to Jalen
Damn.
Warren. And yeah, this is where it gets wild though. It
Cordell
was
Patterson.
yeah, I can pull it up. I can pull it up, man. Don't even tease me on that. I can get it here. But 20 carries for Najee, two
Ooh.
carries for Jalen Warren.
Ugh.
So basically, like, hey man, like we're good on you for now, I guess. Whatever. But Najee had that workhorse load, but it was only 3.5 yards per carry, and there was no
Mhm.
touchdown, so it wasn't really a banger
Sounds like a
for
Najee day.
yeah, for fantasy, but it is what it is, dude. I mean, that's how it goes. Yeah, there are 4 touches for Cordero, so you got to give a little bit of there. But Justin Fields had 14, so
Hmm.
maybe it's just a Fields thing. He just beats Warren out when it comes to that. But I was blown away by the Najee split on the carries. So
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, you gotta. I mean, I don't know. I said it, man. He's on the contract year. They're gonna use him and abuse him, but it is what it is. I mean, there wasn't much to go around in the passing game. They each only had 2 targets, so it was an even split there. Didn't have that advantage that Warren had last year in the target game too. So,
Hmm.
phew.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting split for sure, especially with a roster we thought was going to be really 50-50 on that. I know some people, Danny, friend of the
Mhm.
podcast, was talking about Najee having a big year. So looks like that is on
Uh,
track to happen. Just need to get him a little more efficiency and some touchdowns. But yeah, it's good to see that workhorse role from him. I mean, I do have Warren in the league, so maybe it's not that good, but
yeah, I think I traded him to you.
I think you
Let it
did.
be.
All right, last one for me. One more backfield here. I'm going to Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, a split of 51% to 49%. So really, really close for Gibbs there. But more rushing attempts for David Montgomery still. 17 to 11, 91 yards to 44. Passing work went Gibbs' way, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 34 yards. Um, so I was kind of talking all offseason about Gibbs and his potential breakout year, and I still think he has it, but Montgomery getting 17 carries was a lot. So it does seem like they're going to split quite a bit more still. However, if you look at one of the most important places, the red zone work, once you got inside the 20, that split widened just a tiny bit to 56% for Gibbs and only 44 for Montgomery. But once you got inside the 5, it actually widened even more to 67% for Gibbs and only 33% for Montgomery, which we all know Montgomery just came off a season where he had a buttload of touchdowns. So if that trend continues and Gibbs starts to get a little more work when we're getting closer to the end zone, I think that will lead into kind of what I was thinking for Gibbs and him having a bigger season.
Yeah, we'll see how it ends up, man. The red zone split was surprising. I thought Demont was gonna eat that up a little more, so that's a little feather in the cap
Hmm.
on the Gibbs potential. It's gonna be pretty exciting. Okay, well that I think wraps up the share the love moment, huh?
Yeah,
And
that is it.
that's the meat and potatoes. I try to work in highlights of surprises from the top 12 across all fantasy positions in my supplemental, and you did a good job with it as well. But got to give a shout out to Alan Lazard, wide receiver
Yeah,
3,
Jesus.
and it's out of nowhere. And definitely got to give a shout out to Jordan Mason. So congrats,
Yeah, big
Jordan
time.
Mason.
Hmm.
But okay, with all that NFL stuff behind us, I'm doing box score boomers. Any long, faithful listeners of the RDR pod will remember this from days of yore. But yeah, Box Score Boomers is me going through some college stuff kind of week by week. And the plan with it for me is to focus more on like the Power Four conferences. I guess it's not Power Five anymore. And then I do like the group of five conferences, feather those guys in. But I want it to be kind of competitive games. I favor like draft eligible guys with the NFL size profile. And I'm trying to limit. I'm just going to do two players per week, but there will be exceptions to everything I've just said. But yeah, with all that aside, I'm getting into my first guy.
Let's do it.
It's yeah, Ashton
Mm.
Genty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's all that.
he's a running back out of Boise State, dude. He gets some mad props for week one and week two, just blowing it up. Week one was versus Georgia Southern, and it was a 56-45 win. So he put up 20 carries for 267 yards and six touchdowns,
Jesus.
which is like that's insanity to
Mm.
me. So pretty impressive and follows it up with a stiffer competition week two versus Oregon. 3-point loss for Boise State. That's kind of a heartbreaker. But he was putting it all on the line for the team. He had 25 carries for 192 yards and
Damn.
three scores. So that's a pretty impressive start to the season. He's leading all college football and rushing stats right now. He is number 11 on PFF's big board for 2025. So
Wow.
he is a known commodity and people are looking out for him. Definitely draft eligible. He is a junior, 5'9", 215 pounds. And yeah, I try to get the qualifications met when I do all these and just to run through that. I mean, he is in the Mountain West, so that gives him, not as much of a bump. If he was in the SEC, that'd be a whole different story. But we do have some guys coming out of Boise State with some NFL success. Devin Singletary and Jay Ajayi came
Mm.
out of there, so that's a little bit of love there. And yeah, you got to mention some other info on him though. He only has 5 catches for 12 yards so far this year. So that's a little bit of a knock on his abilities as well. But he is coming off of 1,300 yards and 14 scores last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an effective receiver with 43 catches for just over 560 yards and five scores through the air.
Damn.
So he does have that. It's just not being utilized as much so far this year. But then my next guy up is T-Mac, Teterona McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Arizona wide receiver. Yeah, you know about this guy too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he had an insane week one
Yeah.
versus the University of New Mexico. It was a big win for them, 61-39. But he had 10 catches for 304 yards and four scores. And
Absurd.
PFF is all over this guy. He's number four on the big board for next year. Draft eligible as a junior, 6'5", 212 pounds. And yeah, he meets the qualifications in a big way. Arizona is now part of the Big 12, so Power Four school. I mean, it would have been anyway last year, but yeah, speaking of last year, it was a 1,400-yard, 10-score season for him. And it's going to be hot. I do got to say his week two stats were 2 catches for 11 yards. So yeesh. But I think that there's a lot going on with him. He's playing with like his high school quarterback as
Hmm.
well. So they got something good going in Arizona. It's something to keep an eye on. But those are our week one, week two combo box score boomers.
Oh
More
wow.
to
Okay.
come. So
Yeah, that's
keep an eye
exciting.
on it, man.
Yeah, those guys were blowing up my Twitter all week last week. So I'm excited to see them continue to go forward, and I'm excited for the box score boomers as well. Should be a
I'll get
lot
a
of
little
fun.
spicier as it goes, but you got to start with a couple of household names.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Alrighty. Well, so that's been week one. We're gonna hit you with a few new segments next week and kind of rotate these segments in and out. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, we'll catch you later.
I took a lease